Yo, what's good people, my name is Tyrels, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. This is the 1999 famous fighting game Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, which is a third and final installment for this Street Fighter 3 series. Street Fighter 3 had New Generation and Second Impact. Both of them came out in the same year. But in Newer Generation, I think this game was like one of these one-offs where it was a testing out situation where we'll add new characters to it, but two returning characters like Ryu and Ken, both being more of like playable characters in the game. Meanwhile, you couldn't even play most of the characters in there because they were new and people had no idea where the previous characters were from Street Fighter 2. But as the game went on, the second installment, which is Second Impact, I think made a slight improvement with the EX moves being a thing now and the new bonus stage for parrying. And I also think that they put more character into it as well, with Urien being new and Akuma being returned to the character, Yang being showable now instead of just having a secret character kind of thing where you have to press a different button to be Yun's brother. When the third installment of Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, we have a better, memorable and a structured game. Number one, I think the stages are gorgeous. I think there are better sceneries on this one. Secondly, I think the characters have really come into their own. Stylistically, they have all the characters that remind you of the previous Street Fighter games. You have Remy that looks like a Charlie and Guile vibe with his water attacks. Then you have returning characters like Chun-Li, Ryu and Ken, and Akuma in this as well. But then the rest of them having newer characters in this one. This is where we have a different main character like Alex. Alex, I think, is the Third Strike main character as well, and the rest of the Street Fighter 3 series isn't focused on Ryu anymore. It's focused on Alex and Gil. Now, with that being said, I think the characters steal the show for me, as you have many of them having different move lists now, many of them having different style of fighting, and many of them having just standing out in terms of design of it as well, which obviously you would know what you would recognize who is who. But also I think that it's not trying too hard to be exactly like the characters from previous games. They're all different in terms of their powers, in terms of their abilities as well. You're able to do newer stuff, like you can do red parries now. All you have to do is just block and then press forward at the right time. It is hard to do, but trust me, it is one of the most amazing things you can do, is to block and parry to earn more points. Also, with that being said, you can also produce combos so easily. I mean, it's hard to get into at first, but when you get used to it, it's actually pretty good. Now, with this game, I actually thought this whole entire thing and experience is great. I think when you go into the first stage, you get a choice to see which fighter you want. Less stress, because when you play against characters that are annoying, like Ibuki or Alex or Necro or 12, like, you can choose which one you want to play against. But then there are some characters that I feel like you don't really get much of in terms of like the earliest stages. It's mostly the people that you see in the first installment of the game, and then later on you get all these other characters that are later into the stages, which I feel like you could mix it up a bit more instead of having more of the same characters in there, like Ibuki being on 1 to 3 or Necro being on 1 to 3, or even 12 being on there as well. I think he's mostly on the first 3 early stages, which I think they could have done in terms of making it more interesting. Now, I think that when you add the EX moves, it is better because you can add more combos as well. You can just practice on many ways where you can just basically give yourself a move list and then produce it with the EX move, which I think is great. I think that when they brought back what made Ryu to this day with the tornado kicks, because he used to do a tornado special move earlier on, but then later on they actually bring it back, which I think is great. Ken obviously is the guy who you would know and love with his Shoryuken and stuff like that, but he's able to do that countless times more now with his EX moves having a dragon with a fired Shoryuken move. I think it's great. Also, Akuma is actually one of the characters that I think is shouldn't really be so easy to use in terms of getting the higher grades, which I'll get into later on. Akuma, I think, is like one of those characters where he's just undescribable, and he's just one of the most powerful characters you want to play. And you have secret special moves that you have as well, but obviously it's really hard to kind of do sometimes. But I wish they kind of did that on most of the characters instead of just having one or two people having different special moves. I also think that Urien has basically gotten a lot better and a lot more stronger, and he's a lot harder sometimes when it comes to playing against him, because his move list as a computer is really strange but also really engaging. And I think it's challenging when you play characters towards the end of the story, except when you get to the last boss. Gil is one of those characters where he looks basic overall, I think, but he is one of the hardest characters to go up against. But when you know the move list and when you know how to play this game overall, then that's when it's easier. But it's also challenging at the same time. Now, I would say the least favorite thing for me has to be the super arts, because I don't think you should have one super art to go along with it. I understand the sentiment where you choose one and you go along with that fighting style. I have one of my super arts when I use Sean. Sean is basically one of those characters where I feel like he can work well with his second super art, which is Soryu Cannon. I think it's great, but I wish they added all the special moves to it, because then it would make it more fun and more engaging when it comes to just having a produced combo, adding special moves, different special moves, not just one and then the other. I think that if you're going to have that on just Akuma, where he has 3 different special moves, Alex has 2, Gil has 3 as well if you play him. But then why not do it to all the characters in there, you know? Like, they can't just have 3 super arts, they have to choose only one. I think you could have added that to the bit. I think the least favorite stage for me has to be Makoto. I think there's not much to it in terms of the structure of the stage. I think it's a bit boring, but I still think that it's great when you have sprites that don't really look like they're part of the game. It doesn't look like it's trying too hard to be real. I think the sprites of the game is actually pretty good. The background stages look like it's an actual painting rather than a realistic stage where you just have people coming in to just like do something detailed. But obviously in 1999 it was something where I have felt like things have been missing from today, where you have the own stages, you have people who just don't really have to make a story about it sometimes. I think they have their own ending, and I feel like sometimes when it comes to just making a standout fighting game, it needs something where it comes to its own, and it needs something where it's more memorable and more interesting and outside the comfort zone. And I feel like Street Fighter 3 has done that, which is what makes this so great, is that not only does it have its own different moves, but I feel like the own characters having their own stages is what I feel like is missing throughout some of the fighting games I've played in recent Street Fighter games. I feel like they should bring that back. They should also kind of bring back the fact that you have, when you finish a match, there's a scene where one person is standing up victorious and the other person is standing out all beaten up and losing, which they did in previous Street Fighter 3 games, but I kind of wish they brought it back and then add the grades to it. But I'm cool with the end results having which grades you get, which I feel like when you have grades given for your performance, it is like interesting, but then it can be harsh at the same time, meaning that you have to be at your best in order to get better at the game. So with the tips that I would give to people that have played this game, I think when it comes to playing the 10 stages, you have to make sure you don't lose a round. You have to make sure that you don't go through this situation where you have to play again, because they don't give you any chances of literally giving you a secret character to play against. Now, when you don't lose a round, you win all 2 rounds without the opponent winning, you actually get to go in the special stage. You have to fight against Q. So once you go into that situation when you have to play against Q, you have to win, obviously, but at the same time it depends on how good you are. So you have to make sure you get some perfects and special moves, and also to do a better job at guarding yourself as well, so that way you won't have to feel like every time you get hit many times and every time you feel like you're not producing as many combos, you are going to go through a trap where you have a low grade, and that's not really going to get you anywhere despite having winning 2 rounds. So you have to make sure you go from C to above or D to above in order to get to the special stage, which is Q. And then now, as I go into it, I think when you play this game now, it's like you literally can appreciate all the games that have been made in previous installments for Street Fighter 3. Obviously, new generation wasn't played as much, but honestly, I just love this game a lot, man. Right now, I think you should guys check it out. See for yourself. You can play it on the PS4, you can play it on the laptop as well. Check out Gameland, I'll put it in the description down below to see if you want to play it or not. And yeah, this game is a classic. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.